Welcome to the Chirpy Heat podcast, the podcast for housing providers navigating all things heat networks. I'm Christine from Chirpy Heat, and in each episode, I'll be joined by a guest who will share practical tips, guidance, and insights on heat network compliance, management, and technology, helping you run your heat networks efficiently and confidently. Hello, and today we welcome Chirpy Heat Director Will Routh, and we're going to get to know Will a bit and talk about our B Corp accreditation and Chirpy Heat's B Corp journey so far. So hi, Will.
Hi, Christine. How you doing?
Very well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for coming along to the podcast.
You're welcome.
Firstly, it would just be great to hear a bit about yourself and, the journey you've been on that's brought you to this point in Chirpy Heat.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm one of the three co-founders of Chirpy Heat. But my background before that was working in local authorities and housing associations for the best part of 20 years. And for most of that time, I think about 17 or 18 of those years, it involved heat networks in one way, shape, or form. The bulk of that experience was when I was energy and sustainability lead at a large housing association based in London and the Southeast. And at that time, they were developing lots of new blocks of flats in London and Reading and Brighton and places like that in the Southeast. That all came with heat networks. So over the 10 years that I was there, I became responsible for managing a heat network portfolio of about 3,500 properties across 50 heat networks.
Wow. Okay. So you've definitely been there.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
been there, and it's probably worth also saying I did live on a heat network when I lived in London for 10 years as well. So I was
Mm.
the customer side, and I did experience some of the things that we help our customers with in terms of outages and unclear charging structures and things like that. So kind of experience from both sides.
So definitely loads of valuable experience there. And how about, between that experience and now? Maybe can we fill in that bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2019, we founded Chirpy Heat, and it was on the recognition that heat network management was a kind of growing issue for the social housing sector. And it was from that direct experience of working in the sector that I met Nicholas and Rachel, and we kind of recognized that and thought that we could offer some of that experience back to the sector. And essentially, social housing providers have become, through the operation of heat networks, accidental energy providers, and it's a role that they're not really set up to do, and they don't really have the in-house resources or knowledge or experience of doing so. So that's kind of really the aim behind Chirpy Heat was to help social housing providers on that journey. So to use our direct experience to provide independent, impartial advice back to the sector to support them on their operation of heat networks and ultimately deliver heat networks to deliver on their promise of being kind of low cost, affordable, reliable sources of heating and hot water.
All right. So we're talking today about, well, it's during B Corp month. It's definitely worth noting as well.
Mm.
And we're going to talk about Chirpy Heat's B Corp accreditation. Can you tell us, why did Chirpy Heat decide to go down this route?
Yeah, so I guess from the start, Chirpy Heat, we've kind of always had a social and environmental purpose. The three founders all came from the kind of social and environmental sectors. So we were looking for an accreditation that would be holistic and span all the ranges of social and environmental kind of impacts that we have as a business, but also kind of the passions of the directors. So we kind of looked around at different environmental and social accreditations, and B Corp was the one that we really felt spanned all the things that we wanted to cover. Covers a whole host of areas, so kind of environment, workers, the community, how we govern the organization, but also kind of our customers. So who do we work with and for, and what impact do we have in the world as well? So we really like the fact that it looked at both our kind of environmental impacts that we have when we work in terms of our travel and our energy consumption, our wider carbon footprints and the things we purchase, our social impact, so the kind of fair and inclusive working practices, but also the impact that we have on the world as well through the kind of services we offer and provide to clients. Kind of what impact do they have in terms of both social housing organisations that are operating heat networks and ultimately the customers that live on those heat networks? What experience are they having of those heat networks?
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. And I wonder then, at this point in the journey, so the accreditation was 2024, is that right?
Yes, July
Yeah.
2024. So yeah, about
Yeah.
18 months ago.
Okay. So in that, I suppose in the grand scheme of things, quite a short time, but I mean, are there any changes that it's brought to Chirpy Heat in that time?
It has, and it took about 6 months to get accredited. So it's probably the start of 2024 we started the process. So we're probably about 2 years into the journey so far. And that first 6 months really, it kind of we really had to dig into kind of how do we operate as an organization. So kind of things like staff policies, our ways of working, kind of what is our mission and purpose. So we really had to look into kind of articulating some of the things that were quite fundamental to how we worked, but trying to kind of articulate and coalesce around them as a business, and then make sure our operations aligned with all of that, right through from the services we offer to the way we work as individuals and teams within that as well.
Are there any areas then of B Corp like accreditation and this journey so far that have been a particular challenge?
Well, all of it was quite challenging, to be honest. There was lots of questions and lots of evidence and verification, as there should be for anything, and that's the reason we chose to do it. I think one of the areas that was particularly challenging is in B Core language, they're called impact business models, but I guess in more lay terms, it's the kind of what impact do the services or products or services you have, what impacts they have on the world. So
Mm.
we looked at some of our core service offerings, and then we need to kind of develop methodologies for kind of understanding the impact they have for our clients and the recipients of those services. So that took quite a lot of thinking and developing metrics to measure those, and then integrating them into the way we do business. So for example, our training, trying to understand kind of who we train and how much knowledge it can help our clients with in terms of their heat network management. Our technical services, it's understanding how they can improve the efficiency of heat networks and reliability of heat networks, and measuring things like energy savings, carbon savings, fuel cost savings as outputs from those services, and kind of measuring and articulating them so we can prove that to B Corp, but also kind of to our staff and to ultimately to our clients, to say actually the impacts of these services have these measurable impacts in the world as well.
Yeah, yeah, I imagine that's kind of it's like from the client perspective, that's a really good thing to be hearing about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it was inherent with what we're doing, but I think what B Core has pushed us to do is really kind of pull out some of that messaging to say actually kind of why are we undertaking these services in terms of, for example, trying to improve or optimize the performance of a heat network. And it kind of ultimately links back to making sure the customers who live on that heat network have a reliable supply of heat and hot water that's affordable. And you do that by kind of implementing technical measures, but also improving communication so that customers understand how their tariffs are produced, for example, what's included and why the final prices have been arrived at. So it is quite a holistic methodology to understand both technical and customer outcomes.
And so for you personally then, with the B Corp journey, is there any part of it that you're particularly passionate about?
So I think so my background is environmental side of things, and I guess before Chirpy Heat and even housing, I was doing carbon footprinting and measuring environmental performance. So that's kind of one of my key passions is trying to understand and minimize and mitigate kind of the environmental impact of Chirpy Heat's operations. So kind of I really am passionate about that side of the business. And then my fellow director, Rachel, she's really strong and passionate about the kind of people side of it. So the kind of making sure that Chirpy Heat is a great place to work in terms of the staff policies, that we are fair and inclusive and have a great package for our people that work here. and kind of trying to making sure that that's we speak to our staff to understand how that can be improved. So we're kind of looking at ways we can increase flexibility and improve those working packages. So I think all the different directors bring a different slant in terms of kind of their passions for the different areas of B Corp.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And what would you say then is on the B Corp road ahead for Chirpy Heat?
Good question. Few things for the year ahead. So kind of in B Corp world, they've changed the way they do their accreditation methodology. So we need to get accredited again in 2027. So it's every 3 years. So it doesn't feel like that long since we got our first accreditation, but we are looking forward to the next accreditation. And that's looking at actually what do those new standards mean and what will we need to change to meet those new requirements. So we're kind of looking at the B Corp recertification journey. And on a practical level, it kind of in terms of what it means for us as an organization and what we do for clients, in the world of heat networks, the big news is the introduction of heat network regulation at the start of this year. Both consumer protection have been kind of enforced by Ofgem, but also technical standards that are currently being consulted on as well. So in response to that, we're developing a whole kind of suite of new services and developing our old services and introducing new ones that will help our clients on that transition to becoming kind of fully regulated heat network operators. And I guess a core principle of that that's been led and pushed by B Corp is kind of what's going to be the impact of those new services from a kind of social and environmental perspective. Are they going to improve customer experience? Are they going to save energy and carbon? Are they going to help reduce costs? So we're trying to have that as a fundamental kind of principle when we look to develop those new services for our client as well.
Mm.
And then a point we mentioned earlier actually is one thing we do for B Corp reporting is we have an annual impact report. So we kind of measure and report on all of our impacts as a business that we publish every year. And we're thinking about doing that now that we're measuring various metrics for all of our services, that we would like to do that on a client basis. So for each client that we work with, and we could give them a report for the year saying actually of the support we provided on your heat network and heat network portfolio, these are the impacts that's had in terms of cost savings and meeting regulatory compliance and saving energy, saving costs. So we're looking at developing a kind of a useful and interesting client level B Corp reporting as well. And one of the challenges that we've had with that is that once we develop the methodologies, we need to record those metrics on a kind of as part of our ongoing operations, so then it can be collated and monitored and reported quickly. So that's kind of been fundamental to kind of changing day-to-day operations and mindsets of the staff delivering it as well, so that we can then easily put together those monitoring reports, be it the whole of Chirpy Heat or on an individual client basis as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, lots of exciting stuff ahead then. That with the new services you've been talking about as well. Yeah. Exciting times, very busy though, I imagine too.
It is both those things. Yeah, it's very exciting. I feel like I've been talking about heat network regulation for at least 5 or 6 years now. So it's kind of great that it's finally arrived. And also that obviously means lots of changes for our clients in terms of they are regulated entities. And I think we don't want B Corp, our B Corp certification to be separate. That's something we do kind of that's separate from our core offering of services. So that's why we're trying to kind of think about it holistically and join the two areas up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think we've covered a lot there. It's good to get a bit more in depth, like what, how it's been for you and Chirpy Heat going into this B Corp accreditation, and obviously what lies ahead on that front. So yeah, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, look forward to the year ahead.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Chirpy Heat podcast. We hope it's given you clear, practical steps to support you in managing and operating better heat networks. Remember, all our show notes, guides, and resources are available at chirpyheat.com. For any further support, you can contact our customer team at client.relationships@chirpyheat.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.